Welcome, everyone, to Ladder Daily Digest. We honor creators, and today we have a special story with Heather and Sarah. Thanks for coming on the show.
Hi.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
Listen, I want to tell you how much I appreciate you two coming on.
Of
I
course.
think that this is our first ever interviewing twins. How fun is that? We always try to get the most quality guests that we can, and guests that have an interesting story. I know that you do. And for all of you who are listening to this, and we appreciate you, please remember to click that like button. That's important. And subscribe. If you're not subscribed, what's wrong with you? But share the video. You're going to hear some very interesting things in this podcast. So please like and share, not to sound cliche or anything, but that's very important to all of us.
Yeah, thanks. And so let's see, Heather and Sarah, let us know where you grew up and what life was like as youngsters.
Well, we were born in Salt Lake City, Utah. When we were about 3 and 4, our dad went to college to be able to become a mortician, basically. So we kind of grew up with just our mom, who we lived with our aunt at the time, and she was mentally unstable. So there was a lot of us all being locked up in the basement with our mom holding the door shut to protect all of us and her and even our cousin from our aunt.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was pretty tumultuous, I'd say, right from the beginning. And then from there, when we were maybe 4, we moved to California and got in our own place where Dad worked as a coroner. So
Placer County, California coroner. I think he was the coroner. Maybe he was the coroner's assistant.
he did become the
Right.
So we, going to and from kindergarten, we would ride in the back of the coroner's van next to the dead bodies.
And he'd be busy on call. We would be really lucky if we saw, if we drove past him in the school bus once in a while. We're like, oh, there's Dad. We saw Dad today.
Yeah.
Did he ever take you to the office?
Yeah, we saw we saw our first autopsy when we were 5. Yeah.
Wow.
It was all hush hush, but our parents thought we were mature enough to learn something from it, which, I mean, I don't know if we learned anything other than nightmares.
I wasn't fazed at all, but I would never. Looking back, I'm like, I can't believe they did that.
I don't think it would have been as traumatizing, but where he did the autopsies, the morgue, was adjacent to a jail. And so you could hear them shouting, and it would sound creepy, like going down these long halls, and that coupled with him hacking a dead body apart like that, to me, it left a lasting.
So a typical normal childhood then.
Yeah, totally normal. Once in a while, as bodies do, if we hit a bump in the ride to school, they'd groan or moan. And I remember a couple times Heather about bounce out of her seat. That'd scare her to death.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, mom, if I'm in a van and a body starts groaning and moaning, I'm out of there. I'll jump out while the van is moving.
Yeah, I wasn't scared or fazed by really any of that. I had a real deep respect for it. I know my dad did. So, I mean, that's kind of the angle that I looked at it from. It's a very important duty. And
yeah, that is. And that's a pretty big deal to be a coroner.
When you lived just with your mom, did she take you to church? Did you have other siblings?
Yes, we're the oldest of 5.
And church every single Sunday. And she was very devout. I mean, she'd be writing, little notes and uplifting letters to numerous members of the church on a weekly basis. And she served different callings. I think she was teaching young women's and sometimes in Relief Society.
Mm-hmm.
Primary.
Yeah, we were very active right up until we were married.
Even when we weren't in church, I mean, every day was a church session. So there wasn't a day that went by where we weren't all sat in a circle around her and her constantly drilling us and teaching us every Sunday school, church, Jesus, Mormon lesson from the book. I mean, we probably had a better education than a lot of the adults did.
Yeah, I would say that was something I noticed as we got older, that I would be surprised that an adult
Wouldn't know
that was
certain
quite a bit
things.
older than us wouldn't understand certain topics of the gospel. I'd be like, how are you here and not know that? But yeah, we were very well educated by, about doctrine by both our parents, especially our mom,
Does that mean
Wow.
when you were in primary that you would always have the answers? You'd raise your hand first, and
Yeah, they had to get to where we weren't,
we couldn't be called
raise our
on.
hand.
Yeah, and we couldn't be called on for scripture chases or anything like that.
Right. Heather and Sarah, now give everyone else a chance.
That's right.
Yeah. And so
You
let's
guys
see.
drink,
Go ahead, Randy.
do you guys drink coffee?
Yeah, I have some right here, actually. I
Yes.
love coffee.
Oh, me too. I'm sucking on my famous peanut butter iced coffee.
Oh, that sounds good. Mine's hazelnut with some Italian sweet cream and a little bit of French vanilla. So good.
Nice.
Yeah. So good together.
I just
how-
thought I'd throw that question in. Go ahead, Gene.
There you go. So how did you handle like young women's? Did you guys rotate between being presidents and counselors and stuff like that?
By then, my dad was pretty well established as an apostate. He had been excommunicated when we were 8 or 9, right after the San Diego temple dedication, or right around that time.
So that
And
would have been,
say the story behind him getting.
he was printing all those random papers out and leaving them in the lobbies at church.
He knew somebody. He knew a lot of people, but I guess one of his really good friends, his wife was a cousin to Gordon B. Hinckley, and my dad and him would get together and print up pamphlets of doctrinal stuff that Joseph Smith had said or did, and they would just like leave them all over the church building, and they'd get in trouble about that all the time. But I feel like what he got excommunicated for was really trivial. I can't remember what it was exactly.
Well, he was leading the weak-minded away.
Yeah.
and they couldn't have
Essentially.
that. So.
And he did associate a lot with Tom Green, the famous polygamist who was on Jerry Springer all the time.
Right. And so you mentioned prior to the show that he had visions when he was young, and then they returned when you came into his life. Tell us about that a little bit.
He talked about seeing Joseph Smith around the time he was 14. Joseph Smith and Moroni.
And the devil.
And Satan. And he did say that he had held the gold plates from time to time. He was just basically, he believed that the patriarchal line of priesthood was more accurate. So his idea was like to go make his own little sect. He thought that's the way it was supposed to work. So
He was related to Joseph Smith somewhere down the line. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, somehow. But I think that his claim actually, ironically, comes from our mom. Because our mom is related to Judson Tolman and Joseph Holbrook, Judson Tolman was the church patriarch for a time. And Joseph Holbrook, I think, was a bodyguard for a time and played some part in the Missouri stuff. So
Judson Tolman was a polygamist, and
yes,
there was a presentation about him at Sunstone this year.
I wanted to go so bad. Oh, every year I'm like, I'm gonna go. This year I didn't make it.
So I'll tell you, I was there. I was at the presentation. So
That's awesome.
It was fascinating.
Yeah.
Plus, I had to go because I saw my name in print, since my last name is Judson, even though Judson, I'm not related, but I had to go.
Yeah, my daughter is actually named after Judson Tolman's wife, Sara Lucretia. Her middle name is Lucretia.
Oh, wow.
The first wife,
So-
Judson Tolman's daughter.
So your
Or Holbrook's daughter.
dad felt like he had the power to see. I mean,
Yes,
was
in
this in
his
dream?
opinion, he was a seer and a revelator, and he had a divine calling.
He was led to go find someone who had the more higher form of priesthood, which ended up being Ross LeBaron and Tom Green.
Gotcha. And he saw these visions in dreams, or did he?
It was while he was awake, and it wasn't until I think we were like 13, 14, he just piped up in the middle of family dinner. I was like, oh, God just told me to do XYZ. And we were like, what? Like, none of us heard anything. You heard this just now? And he's like, yeah.
Wow.
I think that in a lot of ways, there's a fine line between his reality and just what pops into his head. He was born with fetal alcohol syndrome, and so whether he's actually seeing things or just imagining them or just making them up, it's always difficult to tell.
It is hard. I didn't notice how scattered his thinking was until our mom passed away a couple of years ago. And now, without her to sort of kind of rein him in, we're like, oh, wow, there is a lot going on up there.
I think that maybe also some of us were a little bit delusioned by it, to the point where you just accept it and that's how it is. Some of us knew from the beginning, there's something not right there.
Hey, and sorry about your mom, by the way. I'm condolences to both of you for that.
Thank you. She fought a hard life and lived a lot longer than any of us thought she would.
Sarah probably had the better relationship out of all of us, though, with her.
Yeah, that's tough. It's tough to lose your mama.
Yeah.
Is your father still living?
Yes. He lives in Moberly, Missouri right now. That's where he's living. It's about 4 hours north of us.
Is he waiting for Jesus to come?
Okay, so, oh my goodness. I'm sorry about my dog. Funny twist of events is somewhere around the time we left our ex-husband, our father kind of switched to Satanism.
No, it wasn't after we left. It was literally right around the time we got married.
Because
then he started trying to push that we were wrong and bad. And I'm like, this is how you raise us.
It started off with, the angels that I saw weren't angels. They were aliens and they were trying to trick me. And then it sort of morphed into this whole satanic thing. So there we were.
Wow.
Polygamous wives.
When you were 14 and your dad started, in a way, having these like repressed memories of his visions coming back to him, right? And then added on visions. Did you two talk to each other and try to make sense of it?
Yeah, we did.
It's for us, it was really difficult to be able to talk, though, because the level of control that our mom had, we literally had no privacy. And the very few times that we did try to talk and discern between whether they were right or wrong or how we felt about any of it, mom would find out, and it would become sometimes like a 12-hour tirade of emotional and verbal abuse that would last well into the night to the next day, of how we just need to trust and obey and believe and they love us. And I mean, our brains would be so warped at that point. We just knew, don't question out loud.
I think she was afraid of any more repercussions from how weird it seemed to the outside. And at that time, we lived on a little farm about 10 miles from any town. So we were pretty isolated. We didn't go to school. The only outlet we had was church. We were considered the apostates' kids. So
nobody would talk to us after a fashion.
Yeah.
It sounds like your mom was supportive of your dad then?
Yeah, they got into their little fights, but I would say she was definitely pretty controlling when it came to how things went at home.
But she was all in with the visions and
it took her a while, and she had a dream in which she felt it was her ancestors telling her that this was the way to live. And that was when she finally started to accept polygamy. And then they did start actively looking for wives, which never did happen. They never got any more, but that was when they started to really research into it and see if they could get another wife.
Oh, interesting.
You're 14, your dad's having these visions, and you're also, as the oldest siblings, are you taking care of the kids, the younger kids as well? You have duties?
Pretty much. Yeah, we had a cow, we had some livestock. We did show rabbits in California, and we brought them out here to Missouri when we moved here. So we had a lot of rabbits to take care of.
Milk goats and whatever.
Garden. We had a garden.
There were started out as them wanting to homestead and be self-sufficient, but with mom's kidney disease and dad's, he had several back surgeries, 6 or 7 back surgeries. They could not keep up, and it landed on us. Mom couldn't keep up with the kids, so the food, the cleaning, that all ended up on us. So yeah, I mean, we were doing all that while being indoctrinated by, that became mom and dad's only job, is indoctrinating their children.
So you were either being worked and had these responsibilities, or you were being taught by your mom just about all day long.
Yes, or neglected.
Or neglected.
Or neglected.
Because she suffered from bipolar disorder, so there were, stretches of time where she would just be locked in her room for days at a time with, the curtains drawn and it dark and just sleep. Then she'd come out and she'd be manic and want everything clean and perfect for 3 or 4 days. And it was just a never-ending cycle. Everything was happy and good if she had everything her way, and we were all just gathered around while she read for hours on end or taught for hours on end.
Right.
And then she would, go back into her dark phase and go in her room. And so that was pretty much life.
You never went to public school?
We did go to first grade. We were kindergarten and first grade. We were pulled out
Christmas break.
Yeah, Christmas. Well, it was Thanksgiving break. It was Thanksgiving break when our baby sister was born. That was when she decided she was pulling us out. That would have been in California. At the time, they just didn't like, there was a lot of gang activity there, and they just didn't like us around that. And
That's what
she felt like it was safer for us to be homeschooled.
What I remember is Dad pulling the Book of Mormon out and pointing to some scripture and saying, "See, God says you're supposed to learn at home," and that was it. That's what I remember.
He didn't like that some of the teachers were trying to teach Spanish to the kids, so that somehow was a problem for him. I'm not really sure why, because later on he did bring immigrants from like Guatemala into the home. He called them Lamanites. So yeah, I'm not really sure what his thinking process was, but he did not like it that we were maybe going to learn Spanish.
That's interesting.
So yeah, homeschooled from the time we were 7, 6.5, almost 7.
And how old were you when you moved to Missouri?
10, almost 11.
Okay. And so you had a farm there as well?
Well, yeah, we moved from just regular city life to like a little tiny homestead farm in California. That's where they got started with their animals. And
took the animals from there to Missouri.
Yeah, they brought the animals from there to Missouri, which is a story all by itself. That was based on a vision he had about like the world was going to end and gas was going to be $3 a gallon. I remember that so well. And so it was like,
this is like 1999.
Yeah, it would have been 95. It was 95 when we moved out.
So close to the end of the century, millennium.
Yeah. So they moved the whole farm out to Missouri to stay with a friend he met through some catalog. I want to say it was a gun catalog, but I can't remember.
They were supposed to be homesteading, homeschooling, polygamy supporting Mormons, but they ended up being just Mormon con artists that basically robbed them of all their money and left them homeless with 5 kids
and all the animals
in Missouri.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, we have to, I guess I'd say I would be a little bit grateful to the church in Missouri for being so Mormon up in that area, because it's real close to Adirondack, and by chance, everybody that we met was Mormon and helped us get into a place and find property, or, you know, really took care of us in that hour of homelessness and destitution.
Yeah, I would say that's a time Mormonism did help.
Right.
Sure.
Were your parents preppers?
They wanted to be.
I think they would have been a lot bigger at it if their health hadn't been a concern. I
Yeah.
mean, Mom just couldn't do a whole lot. We did have a garden.
We did a lot of
We did all the
canning.
gardening, we did all the canning, but it wasn't huge as it was when we got married. But it was a start.
And so there were still some polygamists around.
Yeah, there's an entire group here up near Stockton, Missouri, in a little town called Humansville. It's really more in Stockton, but
It's real
the
smack dab
address
between
is
the two.
Humansville. There's a bunch from the AUB out here. We have some of the Kingstons. We have some of the FLDS. Just a whole
It's a
bunch of
melting
little
pot.
groups here. Yeah, it's kind of like a melting pot. And Dad was introduced to them through Tom Green, and so that's how he became affiliated with the polygamists in this area.
So that was really when we were around 12, after my mom and dad had bought their place up in northern Missouri, was when they found out about what we call the ranch in Stockton. And Dad was pretty peeved at Tom Green for not telling him about that group to begin with, or he would have bought property nearer to that group. He felt like maybe it was Tom Green's way of controlling him and maybe keeping us to himself as prospects for marriage.
Wow.
So
And it probably was, because there did end up being a skirmish.
it was a skirmish. So, but yeah, that's how we found out about the ranch and the polygamous group down in that area, was accidentally by Tom Green. And immediately Dad drove us all down there one Saturday for church. And that's how we became affiliated with that area and those people.
Right. So as teenagers, are you able to socialize? Did you go on any dates?
No dating. We did make friends of a fashion here. Some of the girls were pretty snooty, so it was
so
hard.
they did
'cause
feel
we
like
were
they were better than
outsiders.
everybody else. And just, I think by how we were raised, we were pretty awkward and different compared to them. But
We got along with a few.
we were
girls.
able to make friends with some of the girls in the group, and we would go there on the summers, but we didn't ever date. That was just never allowed. It wasn't an option.
And it's not really something that's done here. We call it the ranch. They don't really date there. They do more of a courting type thing. So that was more of what was expected. They held monthly dances at the time. I don't know if they still do, but we would go to the dances quite a bit. And that just kind of became a drag, because there really was no boys our age that were really eligible,
that were even
and
smart.
the older men would always just take over and dance with all the young girls.
It really was
so.
pretty bad. I mean, the older men were out of control, in my opinion. I mean, they were like freaking vultures on any young new girl. It was horrible. I remember being surrounded by 4 or 5 at one point, just thinking, this is really no fun. Why would anybody want to come here?
Wow. So we haven't really mentioned the church that you grew up in was the LDS church as it is. And then you kind of broke away from that, correct?
Yeah, sort of.
as-
We sort of streamlined it, doing both at the same time is pretty much what happened.
Mom really
Gotcha.
accelerated our progress in the young women's group, to where we basically graduated it by the time we were 16 or something like that, so that we would be able to go to Relief Society instead. And I know the church, they were seeing a lot of red flags.
They knew everything that was going on.
I mean, there were rumors in the church that either one of us had been married to other members.
So
and
that
they
Dad
were-
would get $50,000.
They would congratulate each other in the halls in front of us to the marriage that we had supposedly had to these people. And there was no, how dare you get married? You're already married. It was, congratulations, buddy, on your marriage to Sarah Staples, blah, blah, blah. And we're like 13, 14 thinking, what?
Right. Yeah.
So the rumor was your dad got 50,000 for both of you being married, or one of you?
It was just one of us.
Oh, okay. So
And
together you were worth $100,000 in this
I
room.
guess so. Yeah, I guess. So I remember I brought that rumor up a couple of times at the ranch because I thought, well, surely someone here started this. Like, right? I don't know where it came from. I never got anywhere finding out what that was all about.
You were trying to get to the bottom of it.
But I know that, yeah. And young marriage was actually a big part of that particular branch. Church we were in. It wasn't a ward yet, it was still a branch. Because I remember one girl, and I did look her up recently. She's still married to him, but her fiance came home from his mission and nobody knew that they were engaged, and then they got married in the temple the next week. So the wedding had been planned for the whole 2 years he was gone. They just hadn't told anyone.
And she 14.
Yeah, it would have made her around 14 when the engagement started.
Oh my
They
gosh.
had to wait like a week or two or something for her to turn 17. And then they finally did the wedding in the temple. I mean, they had it all planned. It was really hard to have a temple wedding in Missouri then.
She was 17. I think
Wow.
she got married at 16.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like a couple years older than you.
Yeah, she was just older than us. She's a really sweet girl, but like I remember her parents were the ones that came over quite a few times. And I always had the impression they were there to check on how things were going at the home, but like with what was going on in their home,
Yeah.
I mean,
Who did?
That young man went on an LDS mission, but was he polygamist?
no.
Okay.
This is in the mainstream church that was
Okay.
up in Trenton, Missouri.
So that's just a quirk of the mainstream church. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't seem like, Dad being excommunicated was really a deterrent for us being prey to any of those men, or even maybe becoming polygamous wives to any of the mainstream men in that church, in that branch.
So he got excommunicated, but you still attended the local ward?
Yes. We still attended weekly. Yeah, we got all our young women's medallions and all that stuff. And I mean, that was probably a couple of weeks before our actual wedding.
Yeah, we went to church the week before the marriage.
And as many have been, your father was excommunicated because of maybe they labeled him an apostate because of his teachings.
Yeah, his beliefs on polygamy.
Did he ever get a second wife?
No, he never did. Not for lack of trying, but
I think people were intimidated by Mom, to be quite honest.
People meaning a potential sister wife?
Any sister wives or any
parents of
parents
theirs.
would see Mom, and she was very strong-willed, loud, controlling, and I think people just saw that and like, yeah, we're not going to stick our kid with that.
yeah. Oh, I know.
Not to mention, I mean, there's no way he could have provided. He had, I mean, he was on disability because he'd had so many back surgeries. That's how we grew up, on disability.
Yeah, his back.
It just wasn't an option for, a young girl to have as a future husband.
Huh.
Yeah, his back was broken right before we moved to Missouri when we were 10. So that was kind of when the shift happened from us kind of being more of a normal family, like going to church and like being out in the world, to like moving and becoming more isolated and more impoverished.
How does a coroner end up with a broken back? Was he in an accident?
He sneezed.
Well, okay, let's go back even
Yes.
further. His mom was doing all kinds of drugs and stuff while she was pregnant, and so he had really bad brittle bones, no cartilage whatsoever. So it didn't take much for his bones to just wear away, and he'd just blow a disc every time he sneezed, coughed, blinked. So
They said it may be related to, he also has alopecia. He lost his hair when he was a young boy and really hasn't grown it since. And they said, I guess that affects bone and cartilage as well. So maybe that, he said recently, that might be part of the issue with his back.
Right.
Oh, wow. I never knew that alopecia affected other parts of the body or other functions.
Yeah, I didn't either, but genetically, I think we're pretty messed up because we have all had to get the genetic testing for the kidney disease our mom carries, and we've just found a lot of surprising things. Like we're like, oh yeah, genetically we've got some issues.
Was your mom diabetic?
She was later on, but that's not what caused her kidney disease. She has a autosomal dominant polycystic kidney disease. She inherited it from her dad, who got it from his mom. We have type 1, which is the most progressive type. So most people, especially in her family, were on dialysis by the time they were 35.
Oh dear.
Needed transplants by then. She made it to 40, and she also lived longer than any of her siblings did, and she was the
Oh,
youngest.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was it like? What things were you learning about polygamy as teenagers? Were you as a 15-year-old, were you thinking that was going to be your destiny?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We
There was no other way.
no, there was nothing else expected of us other than to be sister wives and most likely marry the same man. That was expected of us. We
If
knew
we
that.
wanted to get anywhere, even in the next life, that was the only option. So even if we had any real choice of who to look at, it would have only been somebody willing to practice polygamy.
Yeah,
That's the only way to get to the celestial kingdom, is to
Yeah,
practice
yes.
polygamy according to that teachings.
that's right. Yeah.
And so
And the only way to get Heather and Sarah, too, right?
Yes, I mean, every suitor that came along, Dad would tell them, think it was a package.
It was a pair.
So either you take them both or you take them. And that's where Tom Green and some of the others would get kind of upset because they didn't want both of us. They only wanted Sarah. She was the only one they wanted. And they would get really upset. So, yeah.
Well, okay, that's surprising to me that they would select one over the other because, well, they're twins. And maybe, I don't, do you know why that they
Well,
would?
yeah, because first of all, she was the oldest, and second of all, when you compare the two of us, I mean, we have drastically different personalities. I'm more open-minded, I'm more outspoken, and she was just a lot more easygoing and soft-spoken. I mean, she would have the same thoughts probably, but she wouldn't be as open about it as I would have been. And even at 13, Tom Green would see that, and he's like, "No, I don't want to deal with that."
Heather was going to be harder to control.
Yeah. Yep. I was looked at as the more malleable one. I could be molded a lot easier.
And it, you know, it's even like I look at it back now, and I'm still a little bit offended. I shouldn't be, but it's like I was just as for polygamy as I was trying to be.
Oh, yeah.
I would never have denied it. I would have never not done my absolute best to live it properly. But I still was never good enough. And so I'm like,
I know.
well, how could they not see that?
Internally, I was much more reserved. Like I believed it, but at the same time, I wasn't 100% convinced that's what I wanted. I just knew it was probably something I would have to do.
Wow.
Well,
Heather,
you were raised like that. It's like I said to Jane a few weeks ago, how is it that these intelligent attorneys and doctors and so many people are deceived by being members of the church, and some of them polygamists? And he pointed out that I was, for 45 years of my life, I was one of those. I was born into it, raised and in Little Salt Lake in Mesa, Arizona. And I thought that was the only way of life. I mean, when you're born into a cult, I'm going to use the C word. When you're born into a cult, that's just how it is.
That's how there is. And you're taught every form of defense for that cult and that way of thinking. So thinking outside of the box, it literally not only doesn't happen, but it's unconscionable to think outside of that box.
Exactly.
Once those scales have fallen off of your eyes and you look back with so much more clarity, you're like, how? But at the same time, you felt safe in those beliefs.
I have a lot of, I understand where they're at now because I was there before. You know, that's where I'm at. I'm like, I totally get where they're coming from. I was there, you know.
I love to make T-shirts that say, "What was I thinking?"
But you really weren't thinking. They were thinking for you. You just didn't know that.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
and I've heard that smart people are able to come up with reasons and logic that convinces them even more. So they're able to convince themselves.
Yeah,
And
there's
so-
a lot of self-brainwashing in that kind of culture.
It's just something has to happen where you allow yourself to think for yourself instead of relying on the indoctrination. And it could be anything. It could be somebody mistreating you. It could be some teachings that don't seem to make sense. Like for me, it was the blacks in the priesthood issue, and thinking that the church leaders just got that wrong. God always loved all of his children, and it was just prejudice. The church leaders were just prejudiced. And that was the first time I thought the leaders got something wrong. And if they can get that wrong, what else? Right?
Yeah.
And so as you're approaching marriage age, which is apparently they were talking about when you were 13 and 14.
Yeah.
What happens? What happens to finally get married? And how old were you?
We were 15 when really the ball started rolling. We were at a dance at the ranch, and we already had what we had. Gary, we had the Lord's Eddie. We already had 3 people who were at the house quite often trying to get one of us to maybe be a potential wife. And that's not counting some of the people in Utah that were part of Tom Green's group that my mom was communicating with, and sending pictures of us to as potential wives to those men.
You know, for a little while there, I think there was like a trade plan between Steve McKinley and our parents, where Dad would get Steve McKinley's daughter, and Steve McKinley or his son would get one or both of us. And so there was a long pen pal friendship between us girls, all 3 of us girls, to kind of get to know each other, and then Mom and his daughter.
The McKinleys met another family actually in Arkansas. I'm not sure if they're still there, but that's the family that got Steve McKinley's daughter, and Steve McKinley Jr. ended up with their daughter as a wife. That's how that ended up.
So this is human trafficking at its best.
Yeah, across state lines, by letter, phone and mail, email.
And would have getting married to Tom Green been similar to being married to Joseph Smith 200 years ago?
I don't see any difference.
Because he was like a prophet. He was a spokesperson or whatever.
Yeah, it would have been similar. That was always a terrifying idea, though. Even as much as I thought I should be a polygamous wife, I really did not want that.
I did not want to marry Tom.
But I do know that his wife, Linda, the one that he was convicted for marrying at too young of an age, I think they pinned it at 13. And I do know that the reason they pinned that age is because that's when she gave birth to her oldest son, Melvin. And she told me personally she was married to him at age 11.
Even everybody at the ranch knew this.
It was common knowledge.
She was 11 when he married her, and all of his wives
Gosh.
were
But she's-
super young.
But she still lived at her parents' home.
No, well, and he would get wives that were taken from other husbands to him, given to him, and then he would marry their daughters, is what he was
He
good.
married the mom, married the daughters, discard the mom. So he had
Oh,
2 pairs of mother-daughters and then 2 sets of sisters that he got that way.
Wow.
this is blowing me away, guys. I mean, it's just so wrong on so many levels to be taking an 11-year-old and getting her pregnant by the time she's 13. What in the hell are
What are people
Oh,
thinking?
gosh.
I
So
know.
when he was getting in trouble and going to court, I remember the entire ranch like all up in arms. Oh, we have to support him as a polygamist. And I'm like, but she was 11. Why are we
Right.
supporting this? This has nothing to do with
Right.
polygamy. It has to do with rape. And
Yeah.
even though I was brainwashed, I saw that and I'm like, I'm not supporting him. she was too young. She was a baby.
And there were a few other ladies that stood up and said something similar, but they were all looked at as, well, you're not really fully a part of the religion or the group, so we're just not going to listen to you because you don't have very much faith. So,
Wow.
I mean, being raised with this as a common practice and just normal, it's hard to see your own life as abnormal.
That's right. So
Yeah.
instead of dating, people would be courters and they would come and visit you at the home.
yes.
And
Yes.
so you had these people, did your husband, your future husband, court you in your house?
He started
18
courting
months.
us right before we turned 16, and we were engaged by
16. We were going to get married.
we
at
were engaged by
16.
September, and our birthday's in April, so it's about 5-6 months of courting.
And then how much later did you get married?
We were supposed to get married in December. We would have still been 16, but we ended up having a big snowstorm, which prevented a trip to Utah. So we ended up getting married in June when we were 17.
And who
Well,
married you?
Owen already
had 2
performed
weddings.
a wedding in Utah.
It was kind of an issue.
Okay, so they had a priesthood issue.
Yeah.
Okay, so my dad wanted to be able to perform the wedding, but Charles had asked to
Charles
begin
is
with,
our
he's like,
ex.
do you feel okay if I take them to Utah and use the endowment house? My dad's like, yeah, sure, that's fine. But then at the last minute, he's like, well, how come I can't do all those ceremonies for them? Well, how come my priesthood isn't good enough? And so he decided to do his own, on top of his own wedding for us. And then we had to also then go to Utah and get it performed by the AUB in their endowment house by Owen Allred.
And
So
it was
your dad performed the ceremony first
yes.
to sort of satisfy his pride or whatever.
Yes. And he also gave us our endowments before we went to the endowment house and got one from the AUB. And another good important tip to remember is not only was Dad baptized and ordained by Tom Green, but he also was a friend from somebody in the AUB named Howard Jackson. And so he was also a member of the AUB group through Howard Jackson. He was baptized. They were part of our baptism as well. So we were also members of that group, albeit we didn't really associate much with them.
My head's like, so tell us about the endowment process. How does that work?
He
Like your
has a
dad,
book.
what did he do?
I'm not sure where.
Mom helped a lot.
Yeah.
Mom did the initial placing of the
Anointing.
garments. Yes.
Garments.
And then we had a little 2-bedroom, like a 2-story shack,
Which
that
was
they
our
used
bedroom.
for each level of the endowment ceremony process and the lessons and whatnot that you learn. They had downloaded it all off the internet from other people who had left the church, and it
And
was pretty
were-
exact.
They were
I would
temple
say.
workers too, so they knew quite a bit of it.
I mean, Mom had most of it memorized, so
So they attempted to duplicate the endowment session right out of the LDS temple
Mhm.
yes,
and the Masonic Lodge, as we've learned.
Right.
yes.
And
Well,
also Dad is also a Mason. He's 32nd degree Scottish Rite.
Wow.
So
Oh, wow. Yeah,
he's
wow.
got some leadership role at this point.
And then we went straight from there to the
Wedding in Missouri.
wedding in Missouri, and then
Did you do the penalties?
Yes.
yes,
So
Mhm.
are you comfortable with either showing us or me doing them?
You can do them. I only remember one anymore. I used to be so good at having them all set in my mind, but I can only remember the one where you go like this.
I
And you
remember
drop your hand down.
the other one.
Randy,
Yeah,
you
where
wanna
you
do them?
What's
Mhm.
that? I'm sorry. Well, I know that,
Randy.
yeah, like they said, there's the neck, and then there's also the
The
bringing
gut.
your thumb across to open up and spill your guts, and you hold your hand out to catch the heart, which is why
Wow.
the hand is in the cupped position in front.
Yes.
And can it get any more culty than that?
No.
Right. I thought it was funny after doing all that with our parents, and then we go to Utah and do it at the endowment house
With Owen all red.
all red. And I thought it was kind of interesting because our husband, he didn't understand the symbolisms and any of that. And so I'm sitting there trying to explain to him, yeah, that's why your hand is cupped. He's like, no. I'm like, yes.
Wow. And the endowment house was like a temple?
Yes.
Yeah, it was like a temple.
Basically a temple. They have several, 2 or 3 of them.
They have all the rooms.
They have 2 or 3 of them in the Salt Lake area, and they're all multi-level. So
I want to say it was in Sandy, but I don't know for sure. I do communicate with another member who has left the AUB, who was married, I think, the year before us. And she would know more of the location and stuff because she's still living out in that area. And her dad her whole family is part of that. I think Owen is her grandpa.
And there are those listening who won't have any idea what AUB means.
So
I actually happen
United
to be
Brethren.
one of them.
Apostolic United Brethren. It's also known as the All Red Group.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they're not the All Red Group anymore, but they were at the time.
Right now it's being led by Dave Watson.
He's quite the enigmatic character.
And this is all still going on.
Today.
Yep, it is. It is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was it like to travel to Utah to do that? Did you travel together? Did you drive?
We did.
We were all packed in that little Montana
After
car,
the wedding,
Suburban.
we took the Suburban. After the wedding ceremony, we packed the car up and said goodbye to our parents and immediately headed out to Utah. We were under very strict, what would you call it? Instructions. We were not to consummate the marriage at all until after the next ceremony with Owen, because they felt like that was, the more
Which
appropriate.
Dad didn't even know that at the time, and so after he found out, he was all mad. Like, it makes a difference. Like, why do you care? You just gave some away. What difference does it make?
So I know we left. Most of the kids that were already in the family stayed behind in Missouri with family members.
Just the 2-year-old.
We just took the 2-year-old, us, the sister wife, and our husband. We just drove out there. Most of his family that were going to attend the wedding out there, they were already out there or had already headed out.
I didn't realize that all his family was
Yeah, I know.
So we get there. We never met his sister, Sandy, who was married to Owen Allred's son.
Carl.
So we didn't know any of these people, and these people are so socially awkward. They never introduce us, never nothing. We're just supposed to make ourselves home in this strange house with all these strange people. I don't know anybody from Adam.
We had met some of them before, though, because we did have to come out to Utah on 2 separate occasions to ask permission from Owen and Marvin Allred to be married. And our ex-husband got a lot of pushback at the time because we were under 18. It wasn't until our sister wife, I don't know, he had said no. Owen Allred had said no, and she kind of grabbed him by the arm and was like, look, we really need you to do this, and we need it to happen now. And he finally consented to go along with it.
And to do the ceremony.
Yeah.
Would you be comfortable telling us about, obviously not details, but how the whole consummation thing worked as far as?
I really feel like Charles just couldn't wait, to be honest. I mean, that we had just been sealed and we were still at his sister's house, and he takes Sara and consummates it in the van or whatever we were driving. And I didn't know this, it was an exhausting trip. I was exhausted, but we had to get up the very next morning at like 5 a.m. to go do prayer ceremonies, prayer circles in the endowment house. So our sister wife gets me up, and we get up and we go, and we were expecting Charles and Sara to be ready and still in bed. And she's like, what'd you do? Tear her clothes off, and just gets all mad. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Like, that was the first time I realized what was even happening. He couldn't have the decency or respect to wait till we get home.
Yeah, I didn't have a choice in that situation. I thought we were just
It wasn't a special sacred time or anything.
No, I expected that we would get some sort of special time. But
But
like
nothing
maybe
was-
after we got home, after everything was over with, maybe go somewhere special. I don't know, but it didn't. Right that day after the sealing, I thought we were all just gonna sleep on the floor like we had been, and the sister wife looked at me and said, "What are you doing?" Absolutely not. You and him go out to the car, and that was how that went.
And then she
So-
gets all mad and jealous right after. I'm like,
In the car, and
what's
we,
the problem?
you know, we
You
have
just
a
told
lot.
her to go out there. Why are you?
We had a lot of family out, so of course we weren't the only ones sleeping in the cars out in the driveways. That was very, very awkward, scary, intimidating, not fun, not special.
And for my brand of Mormonism, sex was bad, and then all of a sudden you're married, and now it's good, and now you have to.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
Did that?
Yeah,
Well,
that's how-
it's weird enough for you to have to sleep in a car anyway. That's weird. Then it just goes to a whole new level when that's your honeymoon bedroom
yeah,
is a car.
yeah. And there's people
And-
right outside in their cars, and you know they know exactly what's going on.
And my heart really hurts for you guys. I'm so sorry that you had to endure that kind of life, because I just, you hear about it, you read about it, you see it on documentaries, but when you're talking to the people who have experienced it, it just makes my heart hurt for you that you were so ruled over, so
Yeah.
dominated.
I really felt like up until that point, they had put on a really good show for us. And literally, as soon as that sealing was over, they became who they really were. I mean, I realized immediately, Melinda, probably shouldn't say her name, but she was not happy that we were there. It's like she wanted it to happen to be before, but all of a sudden it happened, and now like we were mortal enemies. That's how it felt, like for no reason, just bam, just an immediate
And it
change.
was that morning with that comment I heard that I knew I would probably be in trouble, and probably for a very long time when she said what she said. Because I'd always considered her such a close friend, and I did what I was told by her and went out to the car like she said. And when we didn't get up early enough for her prayer meeting and she acted that way, I was like, oh, this is going to be tough.
And coming
It's gonna be
from,
really hard.
our background with our mom, with the abuse and control that we dealt with, I mean, I immediately shut down. I knew talking to Melinda was going to be like talking to a wall. I'm not going to fight with her. I was too scared. She could be just as violent as our mom could be, not as often, but I still lived with that fear from her. So I was not going to stand up to her.
We didn't really get into how we got married. We kind of skipped right over that, but
Oh, say that again.
we didn't really get into the how we met him part, but we kind of skipped right over that. I guess I did mention the dance.
Well, to begin with, the way we first met them, and it's really quite ironic, but crazy at the same time.
You mean the first?
We go
time?
down to the ranch because my dad had just found out about
This
it.
is
We're
almost
12 years
embarrassing.
old. We go down there. We had been told that we had to go through a blue gate. Well, the gate had rusted, so it was now red. We didn't know we passed it. We finally find the gate. We're like, well, this has to be it. We go through it. And obviously, it's just a whole
house.
piece of property with different roads, different houses, no street names. My dad's lost. He's like, where's this church? I can't find this church. We've been driving for 5 hours. My dad goes to the first house he sees, and that just happened to be our husband's house. We didn't know it, but out he comes. And I'm like, that's a short little dude, because he really is quite short with broad shoulders. And out come these two little toddlers, one with a sagging diaper and her little booties hanging out, and another with a shirt so big that it looks like it's down to the ground on
Matted
her.
hair.
Their hair's matted. They look neglected, not cared for. My dad asks them, where the church is. We didn't know he even belonged to the group. We didn't know what this was. And he showed us how to get to the church. We went there. That was the first time we met our husband.
But you're skipping over my whole experience of this. This is crazy.
But then years later, we start courting.
Yeah. But my experience is I knew where we were going. I kind of assumed where it would lead. And I didn't want to go. And I had been putting up a fight to not go and be a part of this for like weeks. It was like impending doom. And that morning I was like, I am not going. I'm not going. My mom dragged me to the car in my PJs, and I I refused to change and get ready for church. So while my dad is talking to my future husband, where's the church?
And she said,
I'm changing my clothes under a blanket in the back of the car at what, 14 years old?
We were 12.
Oh, you're right. We were 12.
But anyway, we start courting years later because he had seen us at the dance. And so when we had got married, he told us all about how the first time he'd seen us at church, we were 12, the Spirit told him we were going to be his wives.
Right after that dance is when he started calling and trying to come over and see us.
We wanted to do the trek that the AUB does with all the children going through the desert and enacting all of that. And our parents were desperately trying to get everything together, but we couldn't afford it. So he decided he'll be a pa and he'll take us with his wife. But even he couldn't come up financially with everything we needed. So he just ended up taking us at 15
to Nauvoo.
With no parental supervision. Our parents are like, okay, yeah, have fun. And we're like, we don't even know this person.
And he's like, okay, fine, take your little brother with you.
As a chaperone.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you did church history sites.
Yeah.
So we went to all those sites, and apparently he has relatives at one of the sites.
He did. One of his aunts, who is still a member of the church, the mainstream church, was her and her husband at the homes there. So it was pretty common while they were up there that the whole law of the family would go there, and they would just have a whole camp out thing in the backyard of the house. And it was fun. I mean, they'd have little square dancing. They'd be playing music. Our ex's dad, Daryl, and his brother, Stephen, they were musicians, so they would play music and sing. And so, yeah, that was something we did a few times.
I know the first time we went to church down there, we had been raised, in a regular mainstream LDS church, but so we didn't exactly know. This was a little different. But, a bunch of the kids and somebody get up and sing a song, and I'm thinking, oh, this is the primary. This is the primary getting up and singing, because that happens, No, this was one mother and her 13 children just decided to randomly get up and sing. So, yeah,
Wow.
I mean, it was different. And we didn't realize the vast amount of numbers in these families until much later.
And the lack of doctrinal education was quite astounding. It was a very big turnoff for me.
Yeah, nobody knew the gospel like we did. And so I'm just sitting there like, why do you even live this way if you don't even know why you're living this way? It didn't make a whole lot of sense. And that was a lot of the disputes I had with our husband. Was I would know things, he would get humiliated, and then he'd slap me or something because I shouldn't be telling him. He's my priesthood head. I shouldn't be telling him how the gospel works. I'm like, well, then freaking learn it. Don't be telling me something that's not true.
So there was every kind of abuse you can think of going on here. Physical abuse as well as.
We called it face tapping.
Well, that's what he called it. It wasn't face tapping if it leaves a mark. If you touch me and I don't want to be touched, I'm sorry, that's assault. But he didn't see it that way. If I hit you, you would know it. I freaking do know it, bro.
Right.
And how much older was he, and how much older was your sister?
So he was 32 and she was 31.
So they were 14 and 15 years older than us.
Right.
They'd already been married 10 years by the time we came along, which makes us, 6 when they got married.
And how long were you together with
Just
him?
short of 10 years. Just a few months short of 10 years.
It felt like a lot longer. It still feels like it was a lot longer. To me, it feels like 20 years just because so much happened in that short period of time.
Yeah. And so you felt like, in a way, your sister wife made you feel like you were invading her life.
Yes, she was very controlling anyways from the very beginning because we only had one house. But I mean, I figure as a married person, I can get up when I want to get up. I can make myself food. I can do things I'm an independent person, right? No. Right away, she's coming up and telling us it's time to get up. it's time to get up in the morning. She's making all these rules.
We're
What we
gonna-
clean
Yeah.
in her house, what we do in her
The meals
house.
we cook for her children, you know, when we take care of her children, you know, taking care of her house, doing the canning when she wants any canning done, that sort of
Gardening.
thing. And she also wasn't good about like planning things. So it was generally like we would get up and know we would have a job that day, but we wouldn't know what it was. And she wouldn't tell us. We would
Whatever
have to
pops
sort
in
of
her
figure it
head, whatever she's doing, you just have to follow her lead. And
You were more like servants than sister wives.
yeah, that's all we were, was servants. And even right away, you know, Charles had a bigger relationship with Sarah than I did. And I did confront him about it because I was not being treated good at all. And he's like, listen, I have a connection and a love for her that I'll never, ever have with you. I only married you because I knew I had to get her. And from that point on, I just felt like I was nothing more than a concubine or a slave to him. And he would tell me, like, that's your job. Your job is to take care of the kids and help out and do the work. Her job is to serve me. That's it. Like, so it was
Holy crap.
pretty intense
That's
right away.
ridiculous.
I mean,
That's
at that point, I knew I connected better with Melinda's kids, who were basically living out of survival and neglect. So I just ended up mothering them and educating them, because their mother, I mean, they weren't doing any sort of school, any reading, writing. They were, I mean, filthy, reeked of urine. So I just became a mother to them and just kind of tried to stay out of Charles and Melinda's way as much as I could.
Unbelievable. You know, I looked on your Facebook pages because that's what I do. I kind of stalk the people we're going to be interviewing. So I have an idea of, you know, their ideology. And I noticed, Heather, so when I first met you, I said, blessed be the fruit, because I saw on your Facebook page the sister wives, not sister wives, the Handmaid's Tale. And I watched that series and always thought that it ran parallel to the type of lifestyle you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
The patriarchy.
I definitely feel it. I definitely see it. I mean, even our relationships with our sister wives, it's just so similar. We were their children. She struggled with miscarriages and miscarriage and miscarriage. So we were there just to give her what she wanted in so many sensitive ways. So Handmaid's Tale really did,
and it
feel so similar.
Watching it is just so eerily, like the similarities between Fred and our ex-husband and Serena and Melinda is pretty. It's pretty. Yeah,
I think they did a really good job at capturing the trauma bond between June and Serena, though, too, because that's so real. You're going to have that trauma bond, whether you like your sister wife or not. It's there. And as much as even now, Melinda and I don't get along, it's still there. And if there was some kind of dire situation, we'd end up saving each other somehow.
That's crazy. That is so similar. Oh my gosh. So did you bear children in that relationship?
Yes. So I had 3 children and Sarah has 5. We both suffered a few miscarriages between us.
I had 5. I lost 5 as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. So you, in a period of 10 years, you had that many children?
10 pregnancies.
I mean, he would have kept her pregnant the whole time. I wasn't allowed to have children. I wasn't worthy. My job was to take care of everybody else's children. So in the long end, I had all 12 children living in my house and was taking care of all the children and teaching all the children, while she was primarily just with him doing whatever he wanted all the time.
The favorite.
Yes. And then Melinda was just kind of lost in the shuffle because she was trying to also be the favorite, wedging her way in, but also constantly pregnant and trying not to miscarry. And so she was just basically what we call down all the time, just flat down.
But she also had to take care of herself because he was not financially supporting her enough. So she was also really busy just trying to get by financially.
Food for her. Sarah's house was stocked with food, but me and Melinda were destitute. whatever we could grow in those gardens and raise as livestock was how we survived. And then the ranch did also have a storehouse, and we ran it like a store. And I would sell bread, eggs, yogurt, milk, whatever, and take that money that I could to help provide for all the children, food, clothes, whatever I could. And I had to hide this money because if Charles found it, he would take it and I wouldn't see it again. So we did what we could to provide while he did whatever he wanted, wherever he wanted.
There were times that people there would notice he was really good at keeping us isolated from the rest of the ranch, but there were occasions where people would go to Heather's house and just see the dire situation, or go to Melinda's house and they would offer help. Like even our ex's mom at one point bought Heather shoes a time or two because he wouldn't buy her shoes.
Bring clothes over because my clothes were not in good shape, or Deanna took me to get new glasses because he'd hit me and the side piece came off and I went around with just one part of my glasses and this part taped for like 6 or 8 months before his own mother took me to get new glasses. And then he would get angry because he would think, oh, well, we're telling on him. We're complaining to people. Well, no, we weren't. People are just seeing what's right in front of them.
OM freaking G. I cannot believe this, that you had to endure this type of life and come out of it with a high degree of intelligence and understanding. So what is your living situation now?
I'm renting a house here in Ozark. I've been here this is my 9th year in this house. I'm pretty fortunate. I've gone through 3 different landlords now here, but I managed to stay. Yeah, and I think I only have 2 kids living at home now. Most of them have grown up and moved out on their own. So yeah, and then I just work and take care of my pets and my plants and my babies.
I own my own home. I own my own home. I've lived there for 8 years, almost 9. So I can do whatever I want now with my own home, and I'm enjoying having my freedom, being able to do that, something I wasn't able to do before. I raised all 3 of my children. My daughter's a police officer. My son is working on getting into aviation school, and then my youngest son is still in school, but doing well at home. And I also foster. I'm a licensed foster parent, so I also foster children in and out of my home as well. So
I saw your daughter. I saw on your Facebook page that your post about your little girl is now a police officer.
yes,
And what a lovely individual she is. And yeah. So are either of you married?
no, I did try to date, but I quickly realized that after what I've been through with my husband, there'd never be a time where I could ever truly consent to anything. So I was like, no. I stopped. I focused all my energy on my children and helping other children. So that's where I'm at on that.
And that reminds me, we should go back to how you decide that you're going to end, and what steps do you take? How do you talk to each other about it? What do you do to plan? And what is do you call it an escape?
I would call it escape. And it's really quite interesting because all 3 of us wives have been quietly talking about what we'd been going through and realizing that we were each being treated quite horrendously by him in different ways. We decided we were going to leave, all 3 of us together.
Melinda had wanted to go to the priesthood about it first. I think our ex-husband kind of sensed that, and he kind of went to his parents. His dad was the bishop at the time. He went to them first.
And he came home one day, all exuberant and excited. And we're like, oh, something happened. What happened?
He never goes anywhere without me, and he was gone.
Just gone.
And we were like,
Oh.
He took to all 3 of us, who at that point we were just hanging out at the house.
everyone
not
was
doing anything.
everyone was at my house looking for him, and I'm like,
He saw, I just went to my mom and dad's. And we're like, okay. I told them that you guys are worshiping the devil and into witchcraft and blah, 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 blah. And we're just kind of all 3 looking at it just like, are you stupid? Like, what's wrong with you? And Melinda was so dumbfounded and hurt. She literally just broke down into tears and left.
Yeah, she's like, I would never
She just
do
walked
that.
right
Why
out.
would you do
And
that?
Sarah and I just kind of looking at him like, God, you're a total.
I'm like, great. Well, there
Okay.
went our
He
credibility.
goes, nobody's ever going to believe you now, no matter what you say. Like, we hadn't even really been planning anything yet. He just somehow had a sense he was losing that grip and had to do something to protect his image. And that's what he did. And at that point, he told us we weren't allowed to be alone with either one of our sister wives without him present.
I
We weren't allowed to talk to each other.
I lost my allowance to read. First, it was because for me it was books. And it started with scripture study because I was really trying to figure out this priesthood lineage stuff. And the more I researched, the more I just decided this doesn't even exist. It's just not real.
It's all nonsense.
And yeah, and then another, like I have a few books, but one of them mentions our ancestor, possibly like, okay, so Joseph Musser was one of the founders of the AUB, and he claimed to get his priesthood from several different places, but one of them was my ancestor. And I read his journals. I'm like, there's nothing anywhere about this guy in this person's journals. This is a lie. It can't be true. And then also Musser did claim to have shook Joseph Smith's hand, which I felt like was in direct conflict with what Joseph Smith said, like an actual angel or a being would do if you met them.
An angel has no physical being yet. It has to be resurrected to be able to shake a hand.
Well, if they come
And then he
to
turns
you,
around and says he shook Joseph
if
Smith's hand. I'm like,
if
no.
an angel or whatever comes to you, they're
won't
going to
shake
tell you
it.
their
They'll
message
give you their
and leave.
message.
They won't shake your hand. And also, I thought he hadn't been resurrected yet.
Exactly. So none of his little vision or his story made sense. So his priest.
Yeah, that blew that priesthood line out of the water. And then at some point, I'm just like, this is just all ridiculous. It was a Mormon book that I read about polygamy, and I started out reading it to him while we were on the truck because he was a trucker at the time. And I remember I got about halfway through the first chapter, and I'm like, he's not going to like where this is going. So I stopped.
Was that book In Sacred Loneliness or some other book?
No, it's called, hold on, let me see if I can read the title from here. I think it's Mormon Polygamy by Wagner.
Yes.
Yeah, I just decided he's
wasn't allowed to read.
he's not going to like where this is going. I stopped reading it to him and just kept on reading it to myself. And by the end of that book, I finished it right when we got home one day. My fourth child was a baby, and I just remember closing that book and thinking, wow, I'm not a Mormon. Now what am I going to do? Yeah, what am I going to do? I'm stuck here in this position, and I rationalized it to myself, and I thought, okay, well, this is actually ironically ridiculous, but I'm like, well, as long as I'm not being abused, I guess it's okay. Like, I love everyone. I'm fine.
Yeah, you didn't think of it as abuse.
Right there.
Yeah, it didn't take long to be like, well, actually.
So Melinda was also disgruntled. So the three of you were all thinking,
Yeah,
what do we do?
talking. Yeah, we're like, what do we do? And excuse me, my phone's ringing.
I think it started with my complaint. I finally opened up and was complaining about the way he would rape me. And I was tired of it. I felt like it was rape. I mean, we didn't have TV, but I did have once in a while get good signal and saw SVU and learned on my own that marital rape is actually illegal and he can't go to jail. And before that, he's like, oh, it's not rape if you're married, blah, 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 blah. But I had just learned that. And I finally opened up and I'm like, look, this is wrong. This is what he's doing. And Melinda looks at me and she says, if he's doing this, you need to leave.
She also said,
If he's doing this, he has broken every covenant that he made with you. There is no marriage. There's no reason to stay.
He would force himself on you then.
Yes, he
and
was
she
pretty
also
violent.
said she thought that behavior would stop once we joined the family.
Which means she knew the whole time he was that way and placed us in that position to help take the heat off her. And at that point, I not only felt vindicated, but also enraged at her that she would put basically these young teenagers, children in that position just so she didn't have to deal with his problems. And never once said he had a problem, never once let any knowledge to us that there were issues in that area at all. And so my opening up, we all kind of realized and opened up to each other a little bit more about what they were going through. We all learned we're all miserable in our own sense of the way.
It's like, well, what are we going to do?
What are we going to do? And we all decided, well, we're all going to pack and go bag, and we're all going to figure out where to go. And we're going to go from there. She had decided she was going to go live with her brother in Utah. He was coming up for a visit. And this is where things get a little tricky, is her brother is married to his sister. So when they come visit, they stay at his parents' house, who his dad was the bishop. She was planning on leaving. She had her stuff packed. I happened to be with Charles, and we were getting some kind of part in Springfield, and his mother called. I remember seeing that it was a mom that called. And he dropped what he was doing, didn't get the parts, got back in the truck, and drove probably 100 miles from Springfield all the way back to the ranch. Found Melinda's brother parked with the van right in front of the house and all of her luggage, and he's loading it up. And he walks in the house, grabs Melinda, and goes back to the bedroom. And we didn't see her for 3 or 4 days after. Her brother ended up just having to unload everything and leave because his own mom ratted her out, and she never talked of leaving or tried to leave again after that. If we asked her or even tried to tentatively bring it up, she would just go back to her room.
So that was once she said we should all leave. That was just days later that
Yes.
some plans were made.
Yeah,
that was
her.
It was before we left.
That was her only attempt after that to leave. And she could have made it if his mother hadn't ratted her out.
But you would have still been there?
We would have been there, but we kind of had decided that we were going to try to do each individually what we could.
Okay.
But we supported each other in that decision. So our plans to leave were a little different. I mean, I don't know what Sara plans. I can't remember that far back, but I had planned on getting bags together. I had snuck some go bags with my little sister Hannah, and I just literally planned on going to a domestic violence shelter. Our parents had moved down to that area.
Hannah's our younger sister.
Our parents had moved down to that area though, and Hannah had spilled the beans on some of the things we were dealing with
To our parents.
and they took complete control of everything and ruined any plans that we had of leaving independently or being independent, and just kind of threw a wrench in any of my plans.
And that is something that I still struggle with, is how we left. It wasn't how we wanted. We didn't have control over it.
That and Dad's new religious ideas just made Charles look more right, with Dad worshiping Satan and having the Luciferian necklace and all of that. It made him look like our parents were brainwashing us to go away from him, and none of our allegations were true. So we really had no autonomy, and it just did not go how I had planned at all.
Well, so how did it transpire where you left?
Well, I had
a WIC appointment.
Yeah, the whole day was kind of weird, but I had already sent quite a few of my belongings home to my parents secretly here and there as they'd come to visit us, because they had moved closer to us at this point. They were only about 7 miles away. And we had a WIC appointment, which we were so grateful to even get WIC. It was the first time we'd been on any assistance, and we did so desperately need it at this point. And my parents had been
up our asses
nagging me daily. When are you going to leave? When are you going to leave? You need to leave right now. When are you going to tell him?
Are you
tell
really
him
going
this?
to leave?
Yeah. Oh, there was no peace at all.
And these were intimate details I never would have ever wanted my parents to know, let alone my mom. And it snowballed out of control. So instead of Charles taking us to our WIC appointment, they had convinced him to let them take us. And I still, at this point, didn't know. I thought we were still just going to a WIC. But after the WIC appointment, they go to the police department with us. And I'm like, immediately, I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah, apparently Dad had been in contact with the sheriff, and the sheriff said, well, we can't help unless we know why,
and they have
unless there's a reason.
So he took us without even telling us what we were doing. He took us in there and he's like, okay, tell them. And we're like, what?
Yeah.
So we initially, I'm not even sure what's going on, but they're like, do you have something to report? I'm like, well, I want to know how, I did ask, I want to know how I can leave this man safely, how I can be safe and him not bother me and my children. And that turned into paperwork for an ex parte or restraining order. And then that got the prosecutor involved because what they were hearing was domestic violence, rape, and all these other things. So the prosecutor got involved for charges.
This was also involved because of how he treated some of the kids.
It just sort of snowballed from there. We ended up getting an emergency protective order. I mean, by now it's dark. It's
He
6
knew-
o'clock.
he
He
knew
knew
at
something
this
was going
point-
on because he had somebody following us. We didn't know that at the time. And it's really funny because Sarah hadn't seen this part yet. We had been, they asked, oh, well, would he punish you? Or would he just let the cops in? She's like, oh, no, he won't punish us. You have to let the cops right in. I'm like, are we talking about the same person here? No, he would not. He is a gun-toting lunatic. He will start shooting before he
I
ever
was
lets anybody.
scared though. I was scared. I was terrified, especially when the phone started blowing up. I was like, because I knew there was no going back at this point.
And half our kids were still there. When we went to the WIC appointments, we only took our babies with. All the other kids were still at home. So none of this, I never would have dreamed of doing it this way because our children were vulnerable and not safe and not with us.
Mhm.
And, so he's blowing our phone up. He knows something's wrong. Apparently he'd had somebody drive up to Stockton looking for the vehicle we've been in to see where we were. They found out we were at the police department. So while we're trying to fill out all these paperwork for the ex parte, he's trying to hide all the children. He's either trying to hide them at his parents or he's trying to get them sent to Utah where we can never find them. And we're desperately trying to get everything done.
I was really grateful that the officers questioned us separately because we had no idea we were going to be questioned. We had no idea what either of us were going to say. But when we were questioned separately, our stories matched and aligned so well that they knew that they didn't have a choice but to help.
They literally came out and they said, leaving aside, based on what you're telling us, we have no choice but to make an arrest. And I was just sick.
I was
Sick. I'm like, our babies are still there. And they're like, how do we get there? Well, of course, they got lost. So we had to lead them. And
into the ranch,
knowing full well something's going down. We get there. And the cop car's behind us, but they have their lights off. Now, his mom has an old police car, so it looks similar. So I don't think he realized at that time, these weren't cops, or these were cops. They weren't his parents. We get there, and immediately we realize all three of the house's lights are completely off. All the fires, we all had wood stoves, all the fires were put out. And nobody was anywhere.
And Melinda's doors were locked.
Yes, and she had just put locks on the doors too. So I had a key, and the key didn't work. So not only had he locked the doors, but he put new locks on the doors, and we could not get in.
When we went into my house, we figured out that all the guns had been removed from the home. He never got his guns out, but all the cases were spread out on the bed. The guns were taken. So this led us to believe that he was somewhere and he was armed, which was even scarier.
So we sat in the truck. We didn't really know what to do at this point because we can't find him. We have the cops behind us, but they can't do anything till they see him or they're invited into a home to get him.
Can't find our kid.
I see the light in Melinda's house go on and off upstairs, and I'm like, I know they're in there. She has a back door that doesn't lock, but she had barricaded the whole thing up with
talk about finding us first before we get into the house.
Well, yeah, I went back to the door and I still couldn't open it. And I realized they had barricaded that back door up. So I'm like, what do? We go back to the truck to regroup. And out of nowhere, in this pitch black night, here he comes,
just running full speed ahead.
And he doesn't run. Okay, he doesn't run. He's lazy, slow. He doesn't run. He's running full speed, and his eyes are just black. I'm like, we're dead. I mean, we're gonna die. Me and my baby, her and her baby, and my mom, all in this little truck. I'm like, I'm gonna die. And my dad's out there somewhere trying to figure out where everybody is. And he
And are
starts trying to open the
He
truck
locked
door.
the doors just in time, and he
Just as
was
he gets there.
pulling on the
He pulled
doors.
so hard, he just almost opened the driver's door. And my mom just lays on the horn. The cops flip their lights on. And he kind of looks, he realizes, oh, these are police officers. At this point, he's technically, in his mind, hasn't done anything. So he walks over there about 10 feet away from the car. He stays back. He stays guarded.
Thinking about running, but I think he realized he
Pinned
couldn't
up
get
between
far.
them and the woodshed, so he can't really go
Yeah.
anywhere. There's wood everywhere. And I don't know what he said to them, but they flopped his ass on the ground, shackled him, threw him in the back. And at that point, we get back out.
And that's when his dad shows up.
His dad shows up behind us. But at that point, I'm just looking for my kids. And I climb over this barricade of junk in her back door and manage to get through her back door, unlock the door. And I go in her room, and she and her children are laying flat on the ground. Like they were fully expecting a gun war. And they are trying to avoid any bullets flying. They are flat on the ground. And I'm like,
makes sense because his dad showed up.
Yeah.
And his dad doesn't come over ever. So they were expecting something for him to show up on foot and then his dad to be showing up in a car.
because she has
No
only
kidding.
her and her daughter there. And I guess her son was hiding upstairs. But they're laying flat down. And I'm like, where are the kids? Where are our children? And she would not tell us. She would not give us any answers, laying flat down. Finally, I tell her, I'm like, listen, he's out your back window. He's been arrested. You can look out there if you want to. And she was hesitant at first because I think she was still expecting a gun war. Finally, her little girl gets up and pops out the window, sees the lights, and she's like, Daddy's in the cop car. Melinda gets up. She still wouldn't tell us where the kids are. It was kind of a battle trying to get any information. And it was her son who finally was like, they're at grandma's. Because he finally told us where they were. And we were about to leave when she's like, wait. And she reaches under her massive pile of unfolded laundry and pulls out my child who fell asleep. And she hid under the clothes. She's like, here's
Oh, I
your
thought
son.
you were going to say if she pulled out a gun.
No, I mean, I didn't know what she was doing. I'm like, what is this? And she pulls out my son. I'm like, oh. So here, you better take this one with you. So that's how that all went down.
Wow. I was just thinking, I would be on the edge of my seat watching a docudrama that had all this that you're talking
I
about.
wrote all this in a book. I just haven't been able to get it published yet. I have all of this written and documented, the whole story. I just haven't been able to get it published.
That's what I was going to ask you, is if you've written this all down, because this is an incredible story. And I know there's a lot of people that would like to read it. When you do eventually get it published or self-published, that's kind of the thing today is self-publishing. But yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll be the first to be on Amazon buying that book because the story is just incredible, just amazing.
Yeah, there's quite a bit to it. This is just a little bit of the surface.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
So yeah, the police officers escorted us over to Daryl and Deanna's house, the bishop's house, where we were able to retrieve our kids. I know right before we left, Melinda said, so you're really leaving? And we're like, yeah, we're going to leave. And she said, but I love you guys.
That's kind of funny because you just hid our kids from us.
Yeah, right.
That was kind of the last conversation we had with her before we left.
And then she also said, I'm so sorry. I should have told you how he was. And I was still mad from finding out that she knew he was this way. So I was like, I don't even want to hear it. You love
So
me.
there-
You knew all of this.
There are police reports about all this as well somewhere, right, Randy?
Oh yeah, definitely. If the police responded, there would be a report.
And then there were
So-
some court cases.
Yeah, it took 2 years before his trial. I think they had quite a few felonies on him at first.
They dropped
The
a lot.
biggest problem we had was that they were trying the cases together, and the prosecutors and the attorneys kept getting us mixed up.
I don't even think that was.
So they
I
would
don't
be
even think that
questioning
was
her
what it
about one of my situations, and she's out.
They threw a lot of the charges I had against him out because they kept getting my name confused with her name and the dates mixed up. And the prosecutor had promised he was going to do a mock trial, so we would know exactly what dates and events he was being charged with, and he never did that. So we get up there blind. We have no idea what happened on what date. It had been 2 years.
And that said, to be I think he had, Charles, our ex, had it very, very lenient on him. And I think it would have been a lot worse had the prosecutor not been a mainstream Mormon.
I think in a lot of ways he was trying to protect.
If it had been
Mormon
any other
image.
religion, it
Sure.
could have been a lot harsher. But this prosecutor eventually wanted to go for judge, and he knew that they had a good pull on the vote in that area, so he didn't want to go too harsh on him.
He dropped all the child abuse charges, and they had the evidence from the Child Advocacy Center. They had pictures. They had, the kids' interviews. But then they swore they never got it, and he didn't do any of those charges like he said he was going to. I mean, there were some pretty hefty charges. There were sodomy charges for the children and other things that he should have pursued, and he didn't. And then instead of charging with forcible rape on my count, it was just sexual assault. And I remember yelling at the prosecutor there in the room, like, why? He forced me. My stitches tore. I had just given birth. Why is this attempted sexual assault and not rape one? Meanwhile, he attempted to rape her, which I'm not saying that's not a horrible thing as well, but he goes and does rape one on that. And he never even officially completed the act. I was livid. The way they handled all of it, it makes me so angry. I'm just enraged because he could have done life in prison, and he still should, in my opinion, do time for the things that he did that he's just skated by. And now he's out there living a life while we're struggling to raise all these children and survive the trauma that all of us have endured. And he's just out there just
He was
the victim and the
convicted
martyr.
on a few of the charges and did serve for 7 years. They did try to let him out a few years early, a few times, and he refused because the stipulation was he'd have to go to sexual offender courses, and he refused to do that, which is pretty common for people like that. So he got out in 2020, March of 2020, and he's been out ever since.
Right away, though, I mean, he decided to be a nuisance. And I don't know what he has against me, but right away he was threatening to sell me on the black market or something. And I had to get a restraining order just pretty much as soon as he got out of prison. And, I had
or hang you on the wall.
Yeah, the wall. I'm sure that's what he would have loved to do if they had a wall there or a tree.
Right.
I had to immediately get a restraining order, and he's kind of minded his business a little bit since then. So.
And shortly before he was released, the other wife that was still there, she did officially cut ties with him. They're no longer together, and they haven't been since, but she still does live at the ranch.
I mean, all her family is a part of the community, so.
Yeah.
That, Jean, was a reference to Handmaid's Tale, hanging on the wall. But anytime any one of the women were out of line, they would cut their fingers off, poke their eyes out, or
cut their tongue out by speaking.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't lose my fingers because I was
an
avid reader.
If he had had the ability to do that, I would have no fingers or tongue. I'd probably have my mouth sewn shut, and I would have ended up on the wall a long time ago.
Yeah, being on the wall, they'd hang him. And
I think he would have no problem in a life like that. That's for sure. He supported most of those things in that show. So
sounds like it. Yeah. My gosh.
So
I'm
so sorry for that horrible situation that happened, and that it didn't get the support from the legal system that you deserved.
yeah, it's an interesting subject. I mean, even going way back to before the marriage, just the amount of people that knew what was going on, what probably was going to end up happening, and nobody did anything. There's so many people who could have done something.
I'll just say on our first couple court dates, the masses that attended.
That's true.
every single person in his family,
had
every
to
single
hold
person
open the
in that
doors
community.
to the
And the judge
courtrooms.
was unaware that these people were all part of that cult. He just, thinks it's a regular court day. Our court case comes up, they decide to, either postpone it or not, and everybody gets up and leaves. And he asks, he's like, are these all his family, or who are these? And we tell him they're part of that community. I'm so sorry. But then we're being harassed on our way out. So we literally had to wait hours and hours and hours for them to finally leave, for us to be able to be safe to
We're
go out.
sitting, waiting for court to happen, and then people behind you just talking.
You're all a bunch of fork-toothed liars and sluts. And he had a petition going around that he'd had people all over town, not just the community, but all over the town signs saying that we were drug addicts, horrible mothers, and all this stuff. I still have never done drugs, smoked, drank, or any of these things. I've never had premarital relations, but people were signing this, people I don't even know. And then they turn around, oh, we're so sorry that he treated you. I'm like, you freaking signed that. Don't even talk to me.
Right.
Don't even. Yeah. And then the same thing at court when we finally did get court about the charges in the pretrial hearing about the charges of rape and abuse. His sisters, brothers, sisters, everybody in that courtroom. And I didn't back down. I told the intimate, horrific details. And of course, they don't want their women and their girls to know this. So, what do? They get all their young girls up and they heard them out. How dare they know that they, don't deserve to be raped by their husband? We can't let them hear this. So they heard all of these women out of the room. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yep, that's a book, guys. That's a book.
Randy is an author.
I am.
Randy wrote this book.
It's called Filling Empty.
Oh,
It's about grief, overcoming grief. And yeah.
that's a good one.
Well, so what are your hopes and dreams, not to sound cliche, for your future? I know raising your kids is important for you and seeing to it that they're successful, but do you have any other plans in life of what you want to do? And do you have a community that supports you, or are you on your own?
I mean, I can't speak for her, but I'm on my own. I have my children and my foster children. That's what I do. I want to heal and help children in need, and that's my life. My dream and hope would be to be financially stable, which in this day and age and economy, I doubt it's ever going to happen.
Yeah.
It just seems like no matter how hard I work, I'm always behind. Everything's just getting so expensive. But that would be my hope and dream. Is
Dad in the picture at all?
I cut ties with my parents for the most part right before my mom died, and I've never been happier. I will tell him happy birthday. Of course, he doesn't respond because he's just kind of aloof. So,
but I mean, the father of your kids, baby daddy.
So I've kept him out of my children's lives as much as possible. Once my older children were adults, they kind of tried to somewhat have a relationship, but my daughter ended up cutting him off pretty quick when he called her a slut.
Oh, geez.
And the fact that she was pursuing law enforcement didn't sit well with him either. My son tolerates his biological male parent only to use the mechanic tools they have there. And also because, he's like, they owe me this much, so he'll mooch what he can for the most part. But that's pretty much as far as it goes for him. And then my youngest son has no relationship with his father. He's tried a few times, but his dad's a controlling narc. And, he asked to go to Titanic Museum for his birthday when he was 10. He swore he would take him. And then last minute, 100 degrees, he's like, no, I want to go to the zoo. He's like, but it's my birthday and you promised.
And Steven's sick and had asthma.
Steven's asthma. And he's like, I can't do the zoo. It's too hard on me. You promised we'd go to the Titanic Museum. His dad said, no, I'm not doing that. We're going to the zoo. And then literally rounded up all the other siblings to go with him to the zoo and leave Steven out of his own birthday.
Well, but Charles had options to go to the museum because I come in and I'm like, this is Steven
I'll pay. I'll
It's
pay.
more important to me than any of these silly issues. I will pay. I will come pick you up so he can have this time with
With
his
you.
dad on his birthday. I'll pay the tickets. I'll pay the gas. I'll come and get you. Everything will be
Well,
okay.
because he couldn't
He
control
refused.
everything, he refused, and that was the end of Stephen ever wanting to have anything to do with his father. So they really have no
Oh.
relationship.
And Sarah, what about your kids? Do they have a relationship with him?
Really, only one of my children has a relationship with them. They have all tried, except for my youngest, to have a relationship with him. It just has never gone over very well. I think they all may talk to him on occasion by text, but that's about as much as it happens with any of them. My middle son, he does go up there probably every weekend and spend some time up there.
I feel like those,
But it's not really
those
to see his
relationships
dad.
are more for
It's more
siblings.
it's more to see the siblings. They are all still close. All the siblings are still close, all 12 of them. And they all still have great respect and relationship with Melinda. And that's
Oh,
something
well,
that I've always
good.
supported. So
Is Melinda still with him,
no.
or did she break away too?
She
basically kicked him out, so
Yeah.
to speak.
Right before he got out of prison, she, I guess, broke up with him. So they haven't been together for the last 5 years.
So she still
And
lives
then
in
that
that
was the 7
community.
years he was in prison. So she is still living at the ranch, in a house fairly close to his, but she is completely and entirely independent. So,
Oh, good.
yeah, I'm glad for her.
Well, thanks so much for being vulnerable and sharing your story. And I wish you the best. And I would like to write the book and get the story out there to more people. So
Yeah, that's definitely my plan. I've contacted several literary agents, but I've never heard anything back from any of them. But I do really want to get it published and publicized. You know, when we first left, somebody, I don't remember, one of the newspaper people said it's not a cult, and I'm like,
It
it's
wasn't a
cult.
newspaper person. It was one of the religious teachers at MSU.
Yeah, MSU. He's like, it's
He
not a
went
cult.
to the newspaper and refuted that it's a cult. Said that it doesn't meet any of the definitions of a cult.
And I think it needs to be more, I think the awareness of the dangers of that place need to be aware and more open to the people. I mean, the mainstream Mormon church was actually doing meetings with them.
They still have missionaries at the ranch quite often, go to weddings and special events there. So they have a very close relationship with the
And that's
mainstream
not
church
okay.
here. And I think that one thing I would like to see going forward in the future is some assistance in this area for women who are trying to leave that group. I know recently one of the girls down there filed for divorce from her husband, who then set the house on fire. And that was not maybe 3 months ago. So there's just not enough support on the outside of the group for women.
I don't think there's enough authorities willing to do anything about it either. I mean, even after I left, you know, Charles was stalking me in the different domestic violence shelters that I had to go to. And we had literally actually set a trap for him, and he tripped over it. So he got mad, and in defiance, he unscrewed all the boards on the deck at the shelter. You know, I mean, I had to go to three different domestic violence shelters while he's violating all his restraining orders and never gets in trouble for it, just to get away from him and to be able to be at peace. I would go to Walmart, and not even just him, but several members of his family would be guarding the doors so that we couldn't leave, and we'd have to sneak out docking areas with my kids to get out safely. There's no accountability for the men who commit these crimes, these domestic violence crimes, where, you know, polygamy aside, there's no safety for these women because these men are not being held accountable. You have a piece of paper that says they're not allowed to be around you, but they're still harassing you and trying to put your life in danger. He tried to run us over with a car. He never got in trouble for any of those things. And it's not just him, it's all the other women who are also in danger. There needs to be more awareness and more accountability.
Wow.
That's true. So yes, I wish you the best. I hope that this is sort of a beginning of getting more of your story out. Thanks for both of you coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Would you be willing to go on other podcasts as well?
Yep.
So I'm going to reach out to a couple of my podcaster connections and have them watch your story and see if it would also fit with their audience. And so
Awesome.
try to get your story out more and because it's shining a light on abuse, right? And
Yeah.
the more that happens, the more people could be protected in the future. Your
The
problem,
less acceptable it seems, the more people are able to stand up for what's right. All these religion and societies like that, they support it in so many ways, and it needs to be seen as unacceptable for people to be able to be raised in a situation where they know that's not right and they stand up for it.
that's right. Well, we wish you the best.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And everyone in the audience, if you know people that could get some use out of this story and has some value, please share it with those people as well, and in other social media groups and stuff like that. So thanks everybody for watching. Have a great rest of 2025. I usually say that at the close, but I just feel so much for your story, and I feel so sorry all these things happened to you. And I do wish you the best from now on. So
Awesome. Same. Thank you.
thanks for coming on. Bye-bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye.